Well, Happy New Year. Winter only lasts 2 or 3 days at a time here in Vero Beach, so you can all feel it getting warmer, gratefully so. So welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Vero Beach. We are so pleased that each and every one of you is here today. I remind you that you are welcome precisely as you come in all of your humanness, whether you are young or old, gay or straight, black or white, or some other wonderful shade of humanity. Whether you're visiting us for the first time this morning or have been coming for decades, we welcome you in all of your particularity and charm. We hope you will find our first service of the year this morning on gentleness to be meaningful and enriching, and you'll find something here to take with you that will make this new year better for you and more meaningful. Although at times we want to put the rain on time, it flows on despite our wish. Each year seems a little shorter than the last, and all at once, before we know it, we gather to sing out the old year and sing in the new.
Preciousness of time. With each passing year, we realize more poignantly that we shall not, in the time allotted to us, come anywhere near fulfilling all our desires and dreams. All we can hope is that we use whatever time we are given effectively and well.
Let us then, in the year ahead,
take time to think, for thought is a source of power.
Take time to play, to be able to enjoy as children the goodness of this world.
Take time to work, to take seriously and approach purposefully the tasks in which we are engaged.
Take time to be friendly, to reach out to others and break down some of the loneliness and coldness of existence for one another.
Take time to laugh, for it is the music of the soul.
Take time to give, for ours is too short a day to be selfish.
Take time to love and be loved, for these are the greatest privileges of all this life. Would you please join me in your program with the kindling of the chalice flame? May the light of this chalice remind us to always walk in the ways of gentleness, kindness, patience, and mercy. May we step through our world with a good and kind heart, touching all things with gentleness and respect. Thank you. This morning's first reading comes from the website virtuefirst.org, and it addresses God's topic this morning, gentleness. People are at ease around a truly gentle person. If you would like to help people who are hurting and in need, you first need to practice gentleness. People around you will sense your gentleness, and that will open the door to their spirit. At first, that door may be open only a small crack, but with time and trust, they will usually open the door fully. In fact, in today's harsh society, people usually flock to people known for their gentleness. So how do we develop gentleness in our lives? It is not a natural characteristic. It is a fruit of the Spirit, a gift. It must be sought. Then gentleness must be applied in our lives. How will gentleness manifest itself in our lives?
We will actively seek to make others feel at ease, being sensitive to their opinions and ideas.
We will show respect for the personal dignity of the other person. When we feel compelled to change a wrong opinion, we will do so with gentle persuasion and kindness rather than domination and intimidation.
We will avoid blunt speech and abrupt manner, being sensitive to how others react to our words. When it is necessary to provide correction, we will build it on a foundation of encouragement.
We won't be threatened by opposition, but will gently wait for the opposition to be dissolved over time.
We will not belittle or degrade or gossip about a brother or sister who has stumbled or succumbed to vice, but will gently encourage them and patiently pray for their healing.
We will particularly be gentle with our spouses, our children, our families, and our friends, the ones we love.
Say that again.
The ones we love.
We will be gentle in the way we care for ourselves and set expectations for ourselves.
And then they end. We should all strive to be gentle people, gentlemen and gentlewomen, with good manners and respect for one another. We virtuous people should shine forth as lights in the world by emulating gentleness in word and deed.
And our second reading comes from the same source. Gentleness means recognizing that the world around us is fragile, especially other people. It is recognizing that our own capacity to do harm and choosing instead to be tender, soft-spoken, soft-hearted, and careful.
Gentleness is when you know and use the best way to hold an egg or a butterfly. When we are gentle, we touch the world in ways that protect and preserve it.
Being gentle does not mean being weak. Gentleness can be firm, even powerful. To behave in a gentle manner requires that we stay centered in our own values and strength, that we are active rather than reactive.
Coming from this center, a gentle word or touch can channel our energy into healing and making peace. Gentleness may lose battles, but it helps win the overall struggles.
A gentle response tends to create fewer enemies and more friends. Here end the morning readings. So this morning, the first Sunday of the new year, I'm continuing my year-long sermon series preached about one Sunday a month on the fruits of the Spirit, living by the fruits of the Spirit as a UU. And Lisa, I'm going to be skipping ahead in this early part of the sermon to condense it a little bit, so follow my direction on the slides, okay? The idea of the sermon is based on a famous piece of Christian scripture, specifically the Apostle Paul's letter to Galatians. Put that up, will you please? That's good old Paul, and now the quotation, if you could. Paul, who was both a Roman citizen and a Jew, and he was largely responsible for spreading this new gospel of Christianity through the Middle East, said in Galatians to the Galatian congregations, "You were called to freedom, brothers and sisters, only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for self-indulgence. Live by the Spirit, I say, and do not gratify the desires of the flesh. Now the works of the flesh are obvious: fornication, impurity, licentiousness, idolatry, sorcery, enmities, strife, jealousy, anger, quarrels, dissensions, factions, envy, drunkenness, carousing, and things like these." That's sort of a catch-all phrase in case you've missed something there. By contrast, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, this morning's focus, and self-control. There is no law against such things. If we live by the Spirit, let us be guided by the Spirit. And so put up the next list, Lisa. So these are the fruit of the Spirit. Now, my central theological idea for this whole sermon series, I might as well share with you, is the following. Put that next slide up. Unitarian Universalism is an outward-looking and relational, that's the key word, religion, that spiritually and ethically seeks to have us establish right and caring relations in every venue of our living. Next slide. To be a Unitarian Universalist means that you devote a lifetime to cultivating and deepening healthy, caring, respectful, and reciprocal relationships with life, wherever you find it, with the self, with other human beings, with nature, and with the great mystery that holds our creation together and makes it beautiful, which some call God. Thank you. Now, let's go back to the next slide then. Thank you very much. This is an expanded list. The Catholics added a few things like chastity. So we'll be getting at some of those this year. Yeah, wait till I preach on that one. I'll fill the house with that one. One Christian writer, reflecting on this quotation of Galatians and this list, says, "The fruits of the Spirit are spiritually planted inside of each one of us in seed form. And therefore, it is your duty as a person of faith to grow these little seeds, these fruits, into full maturity in your daily living. As a Unitarian Universalist, I like the idea that if you live by the Spirit, these virtues of living will evermore be evident in your day-to-day thoughts and words and deeds, making you a fuller and better person. All right, let's get to gentleness, shall we? Now, I want to tell you right off the bat that it is no accident I have chosen this first and hopefully formative Sunday of the new year to focus our attentions on this spiritual quality, because I am passionately convinced that gentleness is a deeply needed relational equality in our families, our communities, our nation, and our world at this particular time. As John A. Hardin, a Jesuit priest and theologian, once observed, the features that characterize our age and inform the spirit of our times are aggressiveness, boldness, a strong, often ruthless effort to rule and conquer others. The virtue of gentleness scarcely typifies our age. Yet if we are going to be authentic followers of virtue and goodness, we must be gentle. So what exactly is gentleness? Well, I know that we know it when we see it in another person. As one of the readings said, we're attracted to gentle people. When we truly bump into somebody who's gentle and nice, you just sort of know it. Here's a definition from an online dictionary. The quality of being kind, tender, or mild-mannered. Example, Michael was admired for his gentleness and tolerance. Second definition, softness of action or effect of lightness. Example, the gentleness of his touch. 3, considerate or kindly in disposition, amiable and tender. And finally, 4, not harsh or severe, but mild and soft. Now, when I think about the human quality of genuine gentleness, one dearly beloved TV personality immediately comes to mind, and you will all recognize him. Ba-ba! Mr. Rogers, that kindly and gentle and soft-spoken PBS star of children's television who for decades reassured American children that ours is a safe and loving and kind world and that they were valued and precious. Now, contrast that gentle TV personality with another very different public personality with whom we are all too familiar these days. Ta-da! Who could this be? The former star of a rather harsh TV show, The Apprentice, and like it or not, current occupant of the White House, who day in and day out exhibits, either on purpose or because he cannot restrain himself, a harsh and mean-spirited personality that by any measure is not gentle. Regardless of your politics, one must ask, what does it say about the spirit and emotional health of our nation when an outwardly harsh and aggressive and brutish man such as this is elected as president? What does this say about our nation? Now, some of you might say, vis-a-vis presidential politics, Fox Radio would certainly say this, okay, Scott, Mr. Rogers is well and good for little kids, but in the real rough and tumble political world, maybe we need leaders who are prepared to be harsh, domineering, and aggressive. I don't necessarily want a gentle president. I want an effective one. My response would be, I really don't think the choice, when it comes to the spiritual choice we face about how we are, the choice is not between Mr. Rogers, Mr. Milquetoast, and Mr. Brute. I think there's a healthy middle ground, how can I say this, between very soft people and very edgy ones. Here is something I am sure is true. Being gentle and kind as a human being does not mean you need to be some sort of wimp who regularly lays down as everyone's doormat. One writer on the same Virtue First website puts it this way: gentleness is not about being wishy-washy, indecisive, unassertive, or just plain wimpy. Instead, it is a refusal to use power to harm anyone, and unwillingness to cut and slash at people, wounding them for vengeance, spite, or control. Gentleness is a desire that no harm be done. There are gentle ways to be bold, nonviolent ways to stand up for what is right, to stand up against evil, and non-manipulative ways to lead and to convince. But it is not human nature to be gentle, this website says. It goes beyond instinct or education or society's influence. We human beings are simply not gentle creatures. Men are often quick with fists and guns. Women have historically been more gentle, but that is a relative matter. They have their own ways of being vicious and destructive. Today's world gives rewards to hostility and go to an extreme. If we are to bear the fruit of gentleness, this author concludes, we need the ability to be gentle, especially when it is hardest to be that way. This truth about the complex and ambivalent nature of gentleness is what the great Indian leader Mahatma Gandhi knew deep to his consciousness. This profoundly gentle, yet firm and insistent man was the effective leader of the Indian nation's independence movement following World War II. He alone pretty much defeated the British Empire, repeatedly employing the tactic of peaceful, nonviolent civil disobedience in a firm and resolute way. Gandhi helped bring the rather brutal British colonial rule to an end with very little loss of life. And then after independence was achieved, when violence tragically did break out between Hindus and Muslims and Sikhs, a tribal warfare, he went on personal and very public nonviolent hunger strikes, which helped to end that bloodshed. It was Gandhi who said, in a gentle way, you can shake the world. In a gentle way, you can shake the world. By consistently living in a gentle, nonviolent manner, he and his gentle demeanor helped to change the violent course of history. And 2 decades later in the United States, Dr. Martin Luther King, whose noble, nonviolent life we celebrate next Sunday, similarly exhibited a powerful and effective gentleness of spirit in the great civil rights struggles of the 1950s and 60s in America. I want to show you a crest and a logo. This is the crest and logo of the Unitarian Church in Transylvania. We still have 150 congregations in Transylvania, which is in the modern nation of Romania. It's where back in 1568, Unitarianism became an organized religious movement for the first time. And this logo has been the symbol of Unitarianism in Transylvania for hundreds of years. Now you will notice that at the center of the logo is a dove representing peace and gentleness that church seeks. But what is surrounding the dove? Can you see that white thing? What is that? It's a serpent. It's a serpent with its tail in its mouth. The interesting part of this, the serpent, which is a symbol of cunning and strength, is protecting the dove. This is to explicitly remind the Unitarians in Romania, where for centuries they experienced great oppression and repression by the Catholic majority, and then in this century by the Ceausescu communist dictatorship. This is to remind them that they should be wise as serpents and gentle as dove. Now this juxtaposition comes from Jesus. Jesus, when he was sending his disciples out across the Middle East, said, "Behold," he said to them, "I am sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves." One biblical commentator puts it this way: the Lord wants us to be wise as serpents and gentle as doves. That is, when necessary, we employ the cunning of the serpent, but not to the extent that we trick, deceive, harm, injure, and that we employ the gentleness and innocence of the dove, but not to the extent that we cannot teach, rebuke, or stand for the truth. So I think it is spiritually important when we think about gentleness as a desirable fruit of the Spirit to keep this juxtaposition between gentleness and firmness in mind. With all the examples of strong yet gentle people I have given you this morning, Jesus, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and the long-suffering Unitarians of Transylvania, whenever we choose to speak or live with gentleness, we need to remind ourselves that true gentleness does not make us weak or ineffective or defenseless. True gentleness often has a conquering strength to it. I quote again from the Virtue First website. It is true that we live in a harsh world, but it is also true that gentleness invades that harshness with its own kind of beauty and strength. We see it in the way a mother cradles a newborn baby, in the eyes of a father roughhousing with a preschooler, in the silence of the setting sun, in the affectional caress of a lifetime lover and friend, in the peace that settles during an anxious prayer, in 1,000 ways more. Yes, gentleness is invading our world today. The only question is whether or not you are prepared to join the revolution. I want to close this morning by each of us try a simple spiritual practice that may help us cultivate more gentleness in our everyday lives. It is offered by Bradford Keeney in his book, Everyday Soul. He writes, "Practice being more gentle in all that you do. Begin that practice when you wake up first thing in the morning, and then again when you retire in the evening. First thing in the morning, last thing in the day, by gently stroking the palm of your hand with your fingertips. Do this as lightly and calmly, as gently as you can." I'd like you all to practice that. Put out your palm and touch your own hand as lightly and gently and reverently as you can. And then Mr. Kenny goes on, see your life as residing in between these rituals of gentleness that you do each morning and each evening. And if in the course of your day you suddenly find yourself in need of more kindness and calm, find a way at a business meeting or in a confrontation with a friend just below the table at Panera, just do this quietly to yourself and calm yourself down. Find a way to gently stroke your palms again to remind yourself how gentleness works and how gentleness feels. This spiritual practice, he ends, of gentle self-touching will help introduce more gentleness into your consciousness, that you might act and speak and move more gently through your days. Try it again just for a second. Let us all, in 2018 and beyond, learn to be ever more gentle men, ever more gentle women. And I say and mean with full heart, amen. And I send you on your way with these words of my friend John Corrado, who will be with us in a few weeks. Dear people, as you leave this good house, remember to be gentle with yourself.
You're okay. Life has no erasers, but life is okay too.
Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid.
Have faith. Say yes in spite of the temptation to say no.
Be a healer.
Address the world with wonder.
Engage it with courage, daring love, daring trust, daring hope.
Open your soul as if it were a window, letting the sun shine in and letting the light of yourself shine out. Go in peace. May 2018 be gentle and good. Amen.
Amen.